Hi guys, I'm Bess out from TA, and I'm the squad leader of the Ghost Riders, the KA-50 squadron of our North American division. This video is a presentation I made to my clanmates on how to automate some of the tasks transport rotary pilots would normally do in our missions using the CTLD library, namely picking up and deploying troops, as well as crates for FOBs and SAM sites. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos, be sure to leave a comment below. I'd love to read them. Enjoy! Lesson today is going to be on using a basic function of CTLD to pick up some units and then drop them off dynamically on the campaign. So, we're going to want to do a few things today. I've given you a mission to follow along. If you're watching the video at a later time, I'm going to have the link posted in the description below. So, first thing we're going to do, we're going to go to an airport, and we're going to spawn a UE down. So, this UE, we're going to need to arrange in a certain way for it to be able to pick up some troops. Actually, before we get to that, I'm getting ahead of my horse over here. We're going to have to set up a few triggers just to load up the function library we're going to be using for this mission. So, apologies, we're going to go click on triggers over here to the left, and we're going to create a new trigger that's going to load up our Lua files. So, trigger, you make it a type 4, so at the mission start, automatically it's going to do all of this. What all of this is first of all, it's going to load up the mist.lua file on their do script file over here. That's the library CTLD is based on. CTLD. Then you're going to load up your CTLD file, and name mine ctld tuto.lua. CSAR you don't actually need to do for this. It's just I loaded it up at the same time. Sound to country, you don't really need to worry about that right now, but you're going to read up in how to use CTLD and MIST, etc. It's going to say load up those two music files, which is beacon.ogg and beaconsilent.ogg. Those files are going to be needed when you want to lock onto a signal beacon of a down pilot or something. And what you want to do for those is just do the action sound to country, a country you're not going to use in your mission. In this case, it's France. And you just open up the file for that, and ctld/mist is going to take care of the rest. But that's not actually why we're here. Right now, all we care about is to load up our CTLD file. So, now that we've done that, we can put down our UE over here. For our UE to be able to pick up troops and drop them off, we're going to have to give it a special name. So in this case, the name of our UE is Heli Cargo 1. The name of the group can be whatever you want. I'm not very original, just UE. But it's going to be Heli Cargo 1. Now, the reason why it's named that, you're going to open up your CTLD file, and you're going to go to line, where is it? Over here, 212. So if you go in there, you're going to see the name of all your units that can pick up and drop off troops over here. Actually, I don't even have Heli Cargo 1. I changed it for something else. There you go. Heli Cargo 1. Boom. Whoops, not Corgo. Cargo. There you go. So that's the only names the mission is going to recognize for CTLD, so make sure you type it in correctly. You can name your chopper whatever you want, just make sure you add it to this list over here. So, now we want it to actually pick up those two guys I've put down next to it. It's just a simple MadPad team. So 2 stingers. And again, those units are going to be need to be named in a specific way for the system to recognize that. So I named those guys Extract 1. Now notice how I put it in the group name over here, not the unit name. You want to put this one in the group name. So where you're going to see that is over at line over here, 340. So extractable groups. I've named this one Extract 1. I don't really care all that much about it. So now our system recognizes our chopper as being able to pick up troops, and our troops as being able to be picked up. How do you actually pick them off the ground now? So we got 2 ways. We're going to go over them both. But definitely the simplest way to do it is just via a simple trigger where you command the chopper to pick up anything it can detect in its vicinity. So the way you do that is you go back to your triggers, and then I created a trigger over here called ManPad Team Pickup. So it's going to be a very simple trigger. What I want is 10 seconds after the mission starts, I want those guys to be picked up. That's all I want. So condition is time more, so 10 seconds since the mission started. Action, so you just select do script, and then you write in this script over here. So ctld.load transport, and in between brackets you would put in the name of your chopper. And that's going to pick up anything in its radius that's defined with an extractable name. The radius by default, I believe, is 125. Not sure if it's meter or feet, but that's something you can adjust. Again, in your CTLD file, you would go to line, give me a second over here, it's near the top, there you go, line 43, CTLD max extract distance. So if you want a tighter or larger or smaller zone, you can adjust that, but usually 125 works just fine. And also, I wanted to broadcast a message to everybody just saying, alright, the ManPad team has been picked up. And then once that's done, it's just going to go up and follow its next waypoint. I'm just going to load it up and show you guys what it looks like so you can have an idea. Alright, so we have our UE over here. So I'm going to speed up time. You can keep up track to the bottom right corner of the time. Now it's been 10 seconds. The guys have been picked up. It says ManPad team picked up. And our chopper is getting off the ground. That's exactly what we want. So we know that works. Now, those guys have been picked up. That's all good and nice, but we got to do something with them. So we're going to go over here across the bay. And what we want to do is drop them off in this zone over here, drop zone. Now again, there's 2 ways to drop troops. You can do it via a trigger, or you can do it via a zone. This is going to be the way to do it via a zone. And basically it's quite simple. As soon as my chopper gets in there and lands, I have set up waypoint 1 for it to land. As you can see over here, it's going to land on the road on the little triangle. You can adjust the triangle however you want. I'm going to put it over here. As soon as it lands inside that zone, which is named drop zone 1, and again, you can edit the name of the zones where you want to drop off troops. Open up CTLD. Go over here, line 180, CTLD drop off zones. And you can see the name of your zones over here. You can add however as much as you want. So, as soon as it lands down in here and the game detects the choppers on the ground, it's going to say, alright, this is a drop zone, offload whatever you have in there, and then proceed to your next waypoint. And that's what it's going to do. A little note on drop zones. So I'm going to go back over here. You can add different parameters to your drop zones over here. The name of the color is going to be the name of the smoked that's running perpetually over there. So if you want a smoke to mark your drop zones, you can just name it accordingly, or if you want none, you just write in none. And then if you want the drop zone to work for both sides or just one side, red 4 or blue 4, you can adjust that with 0, 1, or 2 over here. So, I'm not gonna load up the mission right now. I'm just gonna show what the chopper is gonna do next, and then I'm gonna show you. So right, our guys are coming in through this line. They're landing, dropping off guys over here. Now, I want my chopper to be a little more sophisticated than that. Once they're done with the dropping those troops, I want them to fly again to the next waypoint over here and land again and extract those guys on the ground. So the way I'm going to do that, because we have a few things to deal with here. Our chopper, once it lands over here at waypoint 2, is going to need to wait on the ground for those guys. Those guys are set up far enough that they're not going to be at the pick zone when the chopper is there. So we need it to stay on the ground longer. And the way we're going to need to do that is by editing our land action over here. So if you open it up, you can see I've checked on land and put it an hour. So by default, the chopper is going to stay on the deck for an hour until we tell it to move. And the way we're going to tell it to move is going over here on the third tab for triggered actions. And we add a triggered action called switch waypoint. So right now, landing at over here is waypoint 2, and waypoint 3 is all the way over here. So what we want is when we tell it to, it's just going to stop whatever it's doing at waypoint 2 and proceed to the next one. And you do that with switch waypoint to waypoint 3 over here. Now, how do we actually trigger that? How do we know our marine team has entered the chopper? And the way we do that is going to be with this zone over here, the big white one called extract 2. So the way I've programmed this is as soon as my UE lands at drop zone 1, it's going to trigger this marine squad over here to start running, following the road along to pick zone 1 over here. When I detect that those guys have disappeared, meaning that they've been picked up by the chopper in pick zone 1, they're not going to appear in the map in extract 2 anymore. So what I can say is, alright, I'm going to open up my triggers again, and then look at this trigger over here called soldiers extract. My condition is all of group out of zone. So my group over here is called extract 2, and the zone as well is called extract 2. You can name those. You can name the zone however you want. That doesn't matter. I've named the Marine Squad Extract 2 because I want them to be able to be extracted. If you remember, the name of the groups need to be in the CTLD file. So yeah, as soon as they enter pick zone 1, they're going to disappear and be picked up by the UE, which is going to trigger its action to go to the next waypoint, basically. So the other trigger for the soldiers to start running is pretty straightforward. It just says, alright, when all of my group UE, which is my single chopper, gets into the drop zone 1 over here, it pushes the task, go to your next waypoint, waypoint 1, which is basically like the switch waypoint function we're using on the UE, just a different name. So we can look at that right now. Oh yeah, I forgot, before we load that up. For pick zone over here, first thing I talked about was how to pick up units with trigger command, but that's the second way to do it, with just a zone. So, I'm going to open up CTLD again. You can see over here line 152. It works on the same principle as the drop zone. You need to name them pick zone. Whoops. Pick zone, you can change the color of the smoke. You can have the next parameter is actually quite important, the -1 or 0. What that means basically is, well, you want to leave it at -1 if it's a zone that's going to be used for multiplayer games. In multiplayer game, you want your chopper to be able to land there and just pick up whatever it wants and then fly off and drop off the troops without having to worry about where the units are on the map. You just make them appear and it works. What's gonna happen if you leave it to -1 and then AI choppers lands there is it's going to fill itself up with whatever unit it wants. Not gonna look for the units on the ground that it can pick up because it's unlimited. It's just gonna fill itself up automatically. So you want to make sure if you're doing it for AI, change that to a 0 over here. You can change it to whatever number you want. If you changed it to a 2, it's just going to pick up 2 units automatically in the zone, but we just want those guys, so we put it to 0. Next flag is active, so if you want your zone to be inactive at the beginning of the game and make it active, like say when a fob gets deployed or something, that's something you can change in your settings. By default it is yes. And finally it's your flag number for reference in your programming. No, that's the side number, excuse me. So if you want it to be a pickup zone for red or blue team. So, again, what we're going to show is our Yui coming in to drop zone 1, dropping our SAM team over here. When they do that, our Marine squad is going to start running towards Pig Zone 1. Our Yui is going to take off and land at Pig Zone 1 and wait on deck until those guys have entered it. And then they're going to leave the zone and follow to waypoint 3, which is going to be our last waypoint. Alright, we're gonna speed up the time because we've seen that already. Hopefully DCS is not gonna crash on me. The chopper is gonna mess around the airport. I don't know why it does that, but it gets there eventually. There you go. So it's on its way to the drop zone with the green smoke over there. Alright, let's slow down the time. Alright, I don't know if you can see the resolution with the resolution on your screen, but basically we have 4 guys running on the road at the 2 o'clock position from the Yui in the little crevasse over there, and they're running towards Pig Zone 1. So our Yui's landing. So, I believe I programmed my Yui to stay on the deck for 15 seconds once it's landed. There you go. So it's going to proceed to the next waypoint automatically, which is Pig Zone 1. Now we can see our little guys running over there. Not actually following the road. That doesn't matter. Alright. Yui's landing. And now I'm gonna fast forward time until those guys just disappear and they'll be automatically picked up by the Yui. There you go, they've been picked up, which triggered a message going back home. I didn't show that, but it doesn't matter. And then they're gonna go to the last waypoint. Actually, since they're already there, I'm just gonna say what they do and explain how I did it afterwards. So as you can see in the horizon, we have a blue smoke over there. That's going to be my drop zone 2. And what I've programmed my Yui to do is simply to land over there, which is going to automatically disembark my units, which are in my Yui. What you might not see is right next to the blue smoke is a FARP. So what I want to simulate there is capturing a FARP. Usually when you capture a FARP, you deploy a SAM system, some AA artillery, some troops, etc. Which if you had a human player flying the Yui, you could do with crates, picking up crates and just dropping them off and assembling the crates yourself wherever you want them. However, as far as I know with CTLD, when you automate the helicopters, that's not something you can do. So the workaround to this is you late activate them. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second, but basically they're not in the map right now. They're going to get activated by a trigger. So the trigger I've set up is as soon as my Yui gets inside my drop zone 2, which is relatively small, it's just going to spawn those guys up active, just like if they were dropped there by a crate. And you have to look at it really closely to notice it's not made by a crate, it's just, you know, movie magic. But for what we're trying to do, and for your typical DCS mission, that's more than enough. Don't complicate your life with this, it's complicated enough. So, Yui's coming in. Right now, as you can see, there's no Oxites over here. In a few seconds, there's going to be. Alright, as you can see, those guys just spawned in the background. It entered the zone and it says FARP activated. So those guys just appeared in the field. So that's the way you spawn the FARP. And then he lands, drops the unit, and that's the end of my mission. There you go. Alright, yeah, as I was saying, your helicopter dying on you is something you need to take into consideration. You can do a few things to mitigate that.
Make him immortal?
Well, yeah, that's one way. If the helicopters are just there to, say, reinforce an advanced point on the map and they're not really mission critical, and nobody's going to be looking at it too much, yeah, making them immortal is a great way of just doing it, and it's going to work. Otherwise, you could use a function of Myst called respawn group, which basically what it does is when the group dies, it just respawns them at their first waypoint, and then they're going to resume their original flight plan. So that might be something to do. Otherwise, if you're feeling really fancy, say you wanted to make it sort of like a checkpoint system. So if my Yui gets shut down between Pig Zone 1 and Drop Zone 2, for instance, I want it to respawn at Pig Zone 1, not at the airfield, and redo all this for nothing. What you would do, now you'd need to use new helicopter groups and late activations and triggers, for instance. So the way you could do it is you'd spawn a new group over here of a Yui, get an AI, doesn't really matter, it's not real. Make it over here, put it on the ground, set it to taking off from the ground hot. Yeah, one, go. Take off from the ground hot. And then you check late activation over here. And in your triggers, you would set up, so make it a new trigger. That's a switch condition. Condition would be group dead. Group dead for Yui. So when my Yui's dead over here, and then flag is true. So flag is true. So when your first Yui lands in Pig Zone 1, you would also activate whatever flag you choose for this. So then you know, alright, I first landed over there, that's my checkpoint of sorts. So then when it dies, and this flag is true, you just respawn this, you just activate this one. So the action would be group activate. What's the name of it? New helicopter group, I didn't actually name it. So it would activate this group instead, and this group would follow the waypoint you'd set up for it. So you could put in another one there, and it would be seamless. At my waypoint 3 over here, we're going to take my my Hawk site, for instance. My Hawk site by default is not activated. Late activation is checked. So the way to activate it is when my Huey gets at waypoint 3, it's going to go land over here in Drop Zone 2. So the way I do that is open up my triggers, and then I have a trigger that activates only once. I don't want those to respawn continually. So it's called Activate FARP London. You can name it whatever you want it. Condition is olive group and zone, so whenever my Yui gets in Drop Zone number 2, action is group activate Hawk site. And it's going to spawn, and if I had given it waypoints, it would start going towards those waypoints. That's right, it's not going to be visible, and it's not going to be targetable as well. So people could carpet bomb the place, and it's not going to be destroying an invisible unit. It's just simply not spawned in. Some of the subjects a little bit quick. Hopefully with the line numbers, you can reference yourself in the CTLD document. Before I finish, there's one important thing. once you're done with your mission and you've edited everything you need in the CTLD file, you need to reload it in your triggers. So when you make your mission for the first time and actually load the script file, what it does is it saves a local version of it inside the mission archive. Basically, it's not going to take on automatically the changes you make to the original file. You gotta go back to do script file, select your CTLD file, and then reload it with your modifications, and then it's going to overwrite. So that's pretty important. And yeah, I think that's it. And that's it for today's video. Hopefully it was helpful to you in your mission making endeavors. I will put a link for CTLD and Myst in the video description below. Be sure to read the accompanying documentation. It is very professionally made. Again, thank you for watching, and if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, be sure to leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. Have a nice day.